How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Mother SpongeBob. Today is January 25th, 2022, and we're gonna focus on this next bomb cyclone or this next major northeast blizzard that could bring up to 2 feet of snow in many areas, as well as bring very strong winds, as well as a major coastal flooding threat potentially along the northeast coast. Well, before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the computer model forecast for the lower 48. Let's first take a look at the European model, and you see as of right now it's pretty quiet throughout the United States outside of this feature right here where we're seeing some snow showers right around Kansas and Colorado, but this won't dump any sort of major snowfall, but that will change as of course we head into this weekend where we could see potentially well over a foot of snow over many areas of the northeast. We're also seeing some rain showers in the southeast, but again, it won't be much to worry about, but it could sort of lead to an area where the pressure will be low enough for our next low pressure system to develop and move up the northeast coast and undergo bombogenesis, which pretty much means that the millibar pressure will drop 24 millibars in 24 hours, which means that it will rapidly intensify as it moves up northeast coast. So to show you guys how this storm will exactly develop, so if we were to continue to move forward, we of course are seeing a very big jet stream dip throughout the United States, and it's bringing well below average temperatures throughout the United States. Like I said in my previous video, it's going to be a very cold week for a lot of the eastern half of the United States, where we're just going to see a very big jet stream dip. So a lot of areas right now are experiencing temperatures around in excess of 20 to 30 degrees below average at this time. So yeah, it's quite cold throughout the United States, and we're seeing just a very pronounced jet stream dip, and that sort of will create the recipe for our next snowstorm, because if we were to continue to move forward while we do have a ridge that's bringing a strong northerly flow, bringing the temperatures down throughout the United States, what's interesting is that we're going to see a clipper system move through Canada, and along with it we're going to see a strong northerly flow associated with this clipper system. So not only will we see a strong northerly flow associated with this ridge in the United States, we're also going to see another round of a strong northerly flow associated with this low pressure system and this ridge that's to the west of it, and that's going to allow for another pretty big jet stream dip to occur throughout the United States, and that will develop a little bit of a low pressure system right around the southeast, because you see that as this clipper system moves through, we see that strong northwesterly flow. This ridge, this very cold ridge, is moving southward, and as it does so, it creates a pronounced jet stream dip to where the air pressure is very buoyant right around the southeast and the Gulf of Mexico, because you're pretty much this jet stream dip will bring that 20 to 10 degree cooler air mass further southward to interact with the Gulf of Mexico air mass, which is currently which the Gulf of Mexico at this point is still in the 70s, and that will create just a very unstable environment throughout the southeast, pretty much forcing the cold air to interact with the very warm and very lightly dense air that's located in the southeast. And if I were to continue to move forward, you see a low pressure system does develop right around the southeast, and we also see a little bit of a snow band along with this clipper system that moves just far enough southward to add a little bit more of a cooler air boost right around the northeast for this storm to rapidly intensify and the air mass to be just unstable enough for a bombogenesis to occur. So if I were to continue to move forward, you see that the low pressure system at the 90-hour mark is at 1,002 millibars. If I were, let's say, to move 24 hours, it drops down to 967. So this doesn't only drop 24 millibars in 24 hours. This drops 34 millibars in 24 hours. So it's going under it's under the criteria of a bombogenesis by quite a bit, as this drops down to 967 millibars, which is very powerful for any sort of low pressure system. To put that in perspective, 967 millibar low pressure system is equivalent to a category 3 hurricane, and which is quite amazing how powerful these winter storms will get. Of course, this doesn't mean that you're going to experience Category 3 type wind conditions, because of course mid-latitude cyclone low pressure systems have their wind field a lot more widespread rather than just centered towards one area like a hurricane. So you won't experience, let's say, over 115 mile per hour winds associated with this low pressure system, but you could easily see wind gusts over 70 miles per hour along the coast associated with this low pressure system. And again, since mid-latitude cyclones have a much bigger wind field, that wind will last for a long duration, and that could easily bring out power throughout the Northeast. But if I were to continue to move forward, you see that the millibar pressure drops dramatically, and we see heavy snow bands associated with this low pressure system. And we sort of also see a little bit of a negative tilt, because you see, if I were in the jet stream, if I were to move forward, you see that right around the 90-hour mark, the storm's at 978 millibars located in this region. But since we're going to see a negative tilt in the jet stream, where the jet stream will sort of move in a direction where the jet stream winds will face pretty much from the southeast, that will steer the storm sort of in a northeasterly direction, very Hurricane Sandy like turn, where we see the low pressure system move very closer to the northeast coast as a result of a negative tilt. And a negative tilt not only will steer this storm closer to the northeast, which will make the impacts even worse than it is. A negative tilt also rapidly intensifies the strengthening process of this storm dramatically, because during a negative tilt, we see the warm air filter in on the northern side, which isn't supposed to happen, and we see the cool air filter in on the southern side. So let's say an area in Georgia could experience temperatures cooler than, let's say, somewhere in Nantucket. And that just creates a very unstable environment in this region, where this dense air is going to want to filter in to where the warm air is located, which is in the north. And that just increases the winds, that increases the convection, and that increases the strength dramatically of this low pressure system. And that's really going to drop this storm down to 967 millibars, where we see heavy snow throughout the northeast as a result of the rapid convection going on right around the low pressure system. And also, I forgot to mention, a negative tilt also makes it a longer duration event, because instead of a low pressure system just moving straight out to the northeast, which would quicken the impacts for a lot of northeast, instead, this low pressure system during a negative tilt will turn westward before eventually turning eastward, which would make it a more long duration event if a negative tilt were to occur. So easily, the European model's case would be the worst case scenario for the Northeast, where you could experience feet of snow, not inches, but feet of snow, which would definitely be devastating for a lot of the Northeast. And you're also bound to experience coastal flooding from this, strong winds from this. Let me show you guys the forecasted wind provided from the European model, because the winds, I will say, could easily gust over 70 miles per hour along the coast, which is hurricane force, and could easily bring out power to millions of Americans. So especially when you combine that with the fact that you're going to see heavy snow right on top of the tree branches, so they're a lot more prone to fall during a blizzard than, let's say, if it was just windy. So if I were to move forward with the forecast, you see that it's taking a little bit long to load, but you guys will eventually see that the winds will just be intense throughout New England and the Northeast. So moving forward with the forecast, you see that we begin to see a little bit of wind right around the Gulf of Mexico, and this is as a direct result of this big pronounced jet stream dip that's pretty much forcing this cold air to want to filter into this warm air located in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's creating a strong wind environment. So if I were to continue to move forward, you see that right around the 90 hour mark, you see that the storm has winds, especially on the eastern side. And if I were to continue to move forward, you're going to see that the winds will eventually move onto land right around the northeast. We're seeing strong winds, especially throughout New England. And in the yellows, that's pretty much equivalent to right around 50 knot winds, a little bit more than 50 knot winds. And in terms of miles per hour, that's equivalent to around 70 miles per hour right there. And you see this low pressure comes uncomfortably close to the east coast and just brings very strong winds along the coast and even more inland where power outages are bound to happen. So that's something important we're gonna need to keep in mind over the next several days, as this is just very windy conditions over the next few days. So when it comes to snowfall, here's what the European model is forecasting, and this would bring a heavy amount of snow to millions of Americans. You see that Boston is experiencing over a foot of snowfall, closer to 18 inches, which would be considered an extreme snowstorm for you guys. Hartford, Connecticut experiencing right around 16, 17. Same goes for New York City. Even extending to Philadelphia, you could receive right around 17 inches of snow. And there are some areas such as maybe the Delmar Peninsula could receive over 2 feet of snow, which would be a significant snowstorm for you guys. However, there is still uncertainty with the forecast, because if we were to take a look at the GFS model, while both the computer models are in agreement that we're going to see an extreme snowstorm off the northeast coast that will drop to a millibar pressure right around the 960s. It's still uncertain whether the track is still very uncertain, and that's going to be key in terms of what type of impacts you experience, because if this low pressure system were to move a little bit further eastward, you're of course less likely to experience the blizzard conditions and heavier snowfall. However, if the storm were to move westward, you're more likely to experience blizzard conditions, coastal flooding, and heavier snowfall. So if I were to show you guys this, you see that the GFS model as of right now is forecasting heavy snow still right around Boston, where Boston is experiencing close to, if not over 2 feet of snow, which is just insane, and it could get into record-breaking territory if you guys right around southeastern Massachusetts receive that much snow. But you see, if we were to take a look further east, where New York City isn't experiencing as much snow, as it's only experiencing right around 6 inches, which I shouldn't say only, because 6 inches of snow is still very significant. But if we were to take a look at Philadelphia, you see Philadelphia is receiving right around 3 to 6, more right like 5 inches, and same goes for Washington D.C., where while it still would be an impactful snowstorm for those big cities, it won't be as impactful as what the European model is saying. And the reason why is because the GFS model does not expect the low pressure system to move as far eastward. And another thing too is that the GFS model doesn't expect the storm to rapidly intensify as fast as the European model. So those further southward, let's say more towards mid-Atlantic rather than New England, would experience less of those heavy snow bands, because the storm would be less powerful if the storm were to strengthen as slow as the GFS model. So if we were to continue to move forward, like I said, we're going to see a significant jet stream dip, and it seems like both of the main computer models do agree that there's going to be a major storm that's pretty much, I'd say, guaranteed and highly likely at this point. Now we're going to see a major storm, but the big question will be how far close, or how far west or how far east this low pressure system moves. And you see that right around the 93-hour mark, the millibar pressure the GFS model is taking is 983 millibars, but it's different when you take a look at the European model, because the European model by the 93-hour mark or around that time is taking right around a storm in the 970s at this point, which shows that the European model wants to strengthen the storm a little bit quicker. And you see that right around the same time frame, the European model is expecting the storm to be at 978 millibars and a little bit closer. And since it's a little bit more powerful, the East Coast and is experiencing heavier snow bands associated with it, but which means that New York City and Philadelphia would receive more snowfall. But I'd say when it comes to impact, New England is definitely more likely to experience a snowstorm for this weekend. It becomes a little bit more questionable the further west you go, because even if this storm were to take the most eastward track, it'll still bring impacts to New England, but it wouldn't really bring much impacts to the mid-Atlantic. You see that the GFS model, while it does expect a big storm to develop, it's primarily only bringing the heaviest snow to New England. So there's still a lot of questions. What really will determine the track of this storm over the next several days is, again, how significant this jet stream dip will be, because if we see a little bit stronger northwesterly flow associated with this Clipper system that's going to move through within the next 48 hours, then we're more likely to see a more significant jet stream dip. And that would mean that the jet stream would sort of position itself to where a negative tilt is more likely to occur, which would steer the low pressure system closer to the coast and make it a more long duration event, make it a more powerful storm, and would bring much more significant snowfall as a result throughout the Northeast. However, if we begin to detect where this strong northerly flow isn't as strong as initially anticipated, then we're less likely to experience the heavy snowfall along Northeast. So it's going to be very close forecasts. Definitely, we're gonna need to pay attention to this Clipper system, because the northwesterly flow associated with it will be key in determining how this jet stream positions itself to where we could confidently forecast where this low pressure system will move, because that will make a big difference in terms of whether or not you'll experience blizzard conditions or little to no snow, especially further westward towards New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. I think snow is at least definitely more likely along New England, especially towards Boston and southeastern Massachusetts. So it's definitely something we're going to need to keep in mind over the next several days. Just pay attention to how this jet stream dip builds over the next several days, and that will increase the certainty of this forecast. So I'll make sure to update you guys once we do get a little bit more certainty. But I will say that major storm is likely off the northeast coast, and we will see some sort of major snowstorm threat in New England. It's still a little bit more uncertain further westward. I'd say west of maybe Hartford, Connecticut, it becomes more uncertain. But now let me show you guys my snowfall forecast. This is based on what the GFS model and the European model are currently forecasting. So this is still based on speculation. This could easily change over the next several days, especially if the track changes. But as of right now, if we were to pretty much take the average of what the GFS model and the European model are saying, you should expect over a foot of snow along the New England coast. This includes Boston, which would be a significant snow concern for you guys. Providence, Rhode Island could experience over a foot of snow, as well as the right around Nantucket and Cape Cod in Massachusetts, who could experience over a foot of snow. And if we were to move further westward, Hartford, Connecticut, New York City, Philadelphia will still as of right now is expected to receive over 6 inches of snow, which would also be considered major for you guys. However, there's still that possibility you could receive more snow, or maybe you do receive a little bit less than 6 inches of snow depending on the track. So it's going to be a closer forecast for you guys, I'd say, in the pinker region. And if we were to take a look further westward, 3 to 6 inches just outside of it, this includes Washington, D.C., this includes Virginia Beach, this includes northeastern North Carolina, and areas just west of, I'd say, the Delaware River, as it seems like the snow bands won't be as heavy and this low pressure system won't move far west enough to bring heavier snowfall. And then 1 to 3 just outside of it. So it is going to be a close forecast over the next several days. So, and this could be the biggest snowstorm of the year for millions of Americans throughout the Northeast. And this might not only be for a season, this could be your most significant snowstorm you've experienced in years along the Northeast coast. So it's definitely something you want to at least be aware of at this point. And I'll make sure to update you guys once you get more updates on the forecast. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. And I hope you guys all have a great day.